What's up, everybody, and welcome to a very special, very unannounced, very late Slam Sessions live stream right here on YouTube. I'm your host, Albert Albanese, and as you can see, I am absolutely about 65% prepared to be doing this right now. I'm extremely tired. I am not right. We had a big snowstorm in New York. I spent a lot of my day, shoveling and spent a lot of my day, working because I also I don't get snow days anymore. I still have to work from home, but I am very tired from a story in which I will tell you about in a few minutes because it, in a way, kind of revolves a little bit about around wrestling, but. Let's get down to brass tacks here. Andy Ruiz, King Base Up. What's up, guys? How are you? It's good to see you guys here. So the story is this morning, I was woken up at 5 a.m. with the front of my air conditioner, which doesn't work, by the way. That's why it wasn't on fully. But the front of my panel of my air conditioner came flying off my air conditioner, fell down my stairs, and knocked over some of my wrestling figures, which I can be completely honest, with the exception of the lack of sleep, because I only got about 2 solid hours of sleep last night. The worst thing about the fact of seeing what had happened is I thought that there was a chance that something could have happened to them. But luckily, we're okay. None of them were hurt in the falling of the front cover of my air conditioner. So that's been my day. AJ Envoy, what's up, buddy? I've missed you. Mr. J Jr. Good to see all you guys here. So I wanted to come on here for a couple of reasons. As you guys know, my Twitter game is getting a lot stronger. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, you should, because I'm starting to get, I'm starting to use it a lot more, and I'm starting to get really interactive. So follow me. It's at KYD Justice. If you're on Twitter, shoot me a follow. It's entertaining. But the reason why Twitter's got my goat this time has been I'm not sure how many of you guys are fully aware, but a couple of days ago was the 2-year anniversary of Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Shane McMahon, and Triple H coming out on Monday Night Raw and saying, King Kaido, what's up, buddy? And saying, hey, we hear you fans. We're going to listen to you. And there have been a lot of people who have been saying that for the past 2 years, the WWE has not done a good job in listening to its fan base. And AJ, actually, I'm not. That's a separate argument. If you want, I'll delve into that really quick. Look, this week, a lot of people were like, Wednesday night's AEW beat Monday Night Raw in the demo. So what? Did you not see? And look, I don't know how many of you guys are football fans. We had one of the best Monday Night Football games ever on opposite Raw this week. And, I get it. AEW, they want to talk about, this whole thing, with the demo. And I look, here's the thing. Somebody on Twitter now, and AJ, if you saw the interaction that I had on Twitter, because you can probably see the guy because he blocked me. I had written about the fact that, WWE has, tying into this, WWE has, for the most part, given a lot of wrestling fans what they had asked for over the past few years since they made that announcement. Now, we're going to get into that because that's going to be the main crux of this. But, the other reason why, if you see the title of this, is the 2-year promise featuring the Yeah Buts. And what I like to say, the new phrase I think I'm going to coin is wrestling fans have the biggest case of the Yeah Buts. Jay Marshall, Dave's not here. This is my channel. Jay Marshall completely just retracted the message. He's like, oh no, I'm on the wrong one. Anyway, and then, they talked about, the AEW winning, the ratings, and they didn't win the ratings. They won the demographic. I am shocked that no, you're all good, Jay. You're all good. I'm glad you're here, man. I'm shocked that Chris Jericho coming up with this idea of the demographic as his way of keeping the ball rolling for AEW when they lost that 1 week to NXT. It was, well, we may have lost overall, but we won the demo, and I'm the demo god now. And now everybody that's an AEW fan is taking that as gospel. This guy actually told me, I can't believe that you don't understand the fact of how the demo works and why it's... The demo is not important to me. It is not important to anybody in this chat. It is important to advertisers and the companies that are trying to get those advertisers. That has nothing to do with anything when it comes to wrestling fans, because overall, WWE Raw still, and on a horrible show that was opposed, Base Up, King Base Up had said, opposed by Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson, just going after each other on Monday Night Football. I mean, Monday Night Football told a better wrestling story than wrestling did on Monday night, with Lamar Jackson coming out of the locker room to this big ovation and coming in and winning the game. That's a wrestling, that's like a wrestling angle right there. That Monday Night Football did better than pro wrestling. And even with all that happening, AEW still did not beat Monday Night Raw overall in the ratings. And this guy has the balls to say something like, the demo means something, Albert, because if not for that demo, if that demo, wasn't there, I'm sorry. They lost in that demo. That's great. But they lost overall. I don't care if people my age watch it. And to be completely honest, when it comes to ratings, I am completely supportive of the WWE doing what they're doing, because they have better ratings with younger kids, which means that they have the future of the wrestling business being built up. You want kids to be invested into WWE. And AEW, and I believe AEW is going to be around for a very, 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 very long time. I really do. I think that they're going to hit their stride. I think their shows have been actually improving these past couple of weeks. I think they're starting to get a little bit better. They're relying less on, ex-WWE guys and bigger names, and they're building up their own stars. So I feel like AEW is going to be around for a very long time. But they're going to realize that the reason why WWE keeps going through these phases where they're like, we're going to be like this, we're the Attitude Era, but before that, preceding the Attitude Era, we had a very kid-centric program. Because the thing is that you don't want teenagers are set in their ways. You want kids to invest in wrestling right away, because they're going to be lifelong fans. For the most part, I can almost guarantee that for all the people in this chat, we've all been lifelong wrestling fans. It wasn't something we got into during high school, because the people who got into it during, grammar school or junior high school or high school during the Attitude Era, when we were at the height of wrestling, they don't watch anymore. And this time in 2018, Raw drew around 2.6 million. Look at the drop-off. Absolutely, AJ. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. But it's also, like Vince said on the call, that when he talked about the investors, people are consuming media in different ways. And I know me and Dave differ about this all the time, but ratings in general for everything are down. And even in the middle of a pandemic, we're seeing that more people are streaming and cutting the cord than they are watching shows on cable. And now you have things like Hulu that gives you, hey, we're going to give you live sports. Well, why do I need cable anymore? To be completely honest, the only reason why I have cable is Monday Night Raw. If WWE went to an all, a format of all online, I probably wouldn't have cable. And now there goes your ratings war. Yeah, they do, King Base Up. Absolutely. Underrated Ravens Nest member Lupus. Yeah, I won't disagree with that. The flock in ECW was great. But yeah, that's the thing about the demo. But that's what everybody's talking about. When it comes to the demo, Harry Flynn. Well, hey yo, buddy, what's up? The thing is that and Andy Ruiz, you're right. It's not completely dead, and I'm not saying it is. And they are doing things to try to revive it. And King Kaito, that's what look. The highest Twitch numbers ever, the highest Twitch stream ever was when Kenny Omega was on Impact. The highest number on Twitch. We're going to start seeing things like that because people are now paying. Look, I have Hulu. I have Disney Plus. I have, AJ, everything dropped off. AEW dropped off this week. WWE had a record low this week. Everybody dropped off this week. It's ratings season, ratings killing season, guys. It's the holiday season. A lot of people don't watch TV during these seasons. That's why every show is in reruns and they show Christmas specials because that's what people want. They don't want to see new, and we always see the ratings drop off around this time. But you're not going to hear the Dave Meltzers of the world talk about that. They're just going to continue to talk about how great AEW is doing, even though they, like AJ Alva just said, they lost around 100,000 viewers from the week before. But nobody talks about that. We'll talk about the record low of Monday Night Raw, but nobody will talk about AEW losing 100,000 viewers. And Andy, I'm with you. I hope it recovers too. But the main crux of this whole thing ties into this. It's the idea of look, I posted this thing about, and you're 100% right about that, Besa. I posted about, this whole 2-year thing, and somebody kept commenting about AEW. And I was like, this has nothing to do with AEW. This is WWE making a promise. And this guy consistently try to shoehorn in AEW. And I'm like, dude, I don't give a shit about AEW in this conversation. They have nothing to do with this conversation. This is about WWE delivering on a 2-year promise. This has nothing to do with AEW. And he made the entire conversation about AEW. And this is us as wrestling fans perpetuating a war that isn't there. It's only there for us. Yes, AJ, you're 100% right. Harry Flynn, yes, exactly. Look at the demo. They did it, and Brian Alvarez is the worst. He just goes along with it. And I am absolutely convinced now that Brian Alvarez is not a real human being. He's actually a troll. He's actually just an actual legitimate troll who just goes online and says these things just to piss off wrestling fans. Because they're not doing any service to the wrestling industry. They're actually doing a disservice to it. But that's just me. Oh, Chris, what's up, man? Look, Chris, you're in the chat with me and Chris have a large group of mutual friends that we talk about wrestling with all the time. And Jose, you're a huge AEW fan, and I don't rag on AEW. I have nothing to I very much don't have a lot of negative things to say about AEW. Most of the time when I watch AEW, I enjoy it. I agree with a lot of things about what JR did say in that whole interview with the leg slaps and people standing around to catch each other. I agree with that. I think that they're, and the selling a lot about AEW bothers me. But outside of that, AEW is compelling. It is. It's good TV. MJF is just good TV. And I met MJF in person, and oh boy, MJF is just as big of a douche in person as he is on TV. And, we'll get in, we can, look, I agree, AJ. I think that JR is 100% right. And Andrew Ruiz, you say the same thing. A lot of people have been saying that. That's the one thing I don't like about, and this isn't just an AEW complaint. NXT does this too. I love the Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano match from NXT. Both of them. The 2 out of 3 falls and their normal match. But I hate spots where it's pump kick, super kick, pump kick, bounce off the ropes, comes back, super kick, discus clothesline, both guys fall. Sell the moves. I get like bump and feed is okay. WWE does the bump and feed thing during comebacks. That makes sense. But Chris Jericho had the biggest problem with doing the whole bump and feed thing when he came from WCW because he was like, I was taught to actually sell the moves. That's what I want out of wrestling. I want people to sell. AJ, I'm with you too. I'm over a lot about wrestling in a lot of regards. And a lot of it has to do with the fans making it intolerable to watch. And yeah, King Kaido, I agree. I like high flyers. I just don't want to see, look, I'm okay that everybody is, outside and they're beating the crap out of each other and they look up and all of a sudden, private parties jumping off the top turnbuckles. Cool. But for 3 guys to just be standing there half-assedly trading forearms, Oh, here he comes. That doesn't look real. And that's my thing, And that's exactly AJ Envoy. Jay Marshall too. Agreed. I mean, it's the truth. And look, if that's the wrestling you like, cool. I'm not telling you not to enjoy it. I'm just saying that's not my personal taste. And Andy Ruiz, yes, I love spot fests, but AEW has a spot fest a night. WCW used to do something, used to do a spot fest with the cruiserweights, but they would do it once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. They would have like a 6-man tag team cruiserweight match open up and it would be a spot fest. But then the next week, they would actually, they would do like a one-on-one match with Malenko versus Mysterio or Jericho and Guerrero, and it would be a great match. It wasn't a spot fest. I hate Gargano and Cole's TakeOver New York match. See, there are a lot of things I like about it, and there are a lot of things I don't like about it. It got me emotionally involved, and I enjoyed it. But, I get it. That's not your style. That's fine. And yes, agree. Finishers being kicked out of is way too much. And also, if anybody can sit there and say, like, it wants to, talk about selling, can we please bring up how horrible Joey Janela sold the V-trigger the other day? He gets hit and he goes like this. It slowly falls down. And his arm stayed up the entire time. I know I'm very hard on Joey Janela. He's actually a really nice guy in real life. He's in, I'm a Patreon member of the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, and he's in that group. And he talks about figures. He's actually super, super nice. He's a cool guy. I just don't get him in the ring. It doesn't do anything to me. And my other thing about it is he was in the ring with Kenny Omega. He hasn't won a match in AEW this year. Why? There's too many high flyers nowadays. I think that there's too many hybrid wrestlers nowadays. I think everybody does a little bit of something. And I think that I liked it better when, like, yeah, it was great seeing Brett do a suicide dive or do a pescado every once in a while. But for the most part, you got Brett as a technical wrestler. It was great to see Sean, do a moonsault, in some of his matches. But for the most part, Sean was, a jack of all trades. But that's just me. And King Base-Up, if that's cool, that's what you're into. That's cool. I like Attitude Era wrestling, hardcore style. I don't like hardcore. That's just not me. I mean, we could have a segment of watching a guy do his best Bob Ross to tell us he's the guest, whatever, in your NXT show. Look. Hosey, I'm with you. I'm with you there. And I love Dexter Lumis. Don't get me wrong, too. Fundamentally, there's a lot of things just wrong with wrestling in general, in my opinion. But for me, it's the fans that get to me more than anything else. And that was the crux of this. We're in a but situation here. WWE for, 2 years ago, almost to the day, Vince McMahon said, we're going to listen to you. Oh, Andy Ruiz, ECW is my favorite wrestling promotion of all time. And I'm going to get into at the end of this. I'm probably going to do a full video about this one day. After I do your video, Harry, don't worry. I won't impede on that. That's going to come first. My laptop is just, I actually just recorded a podcast with two of my friends for one of my friends' podcasts, and it crashed twice. So this laptop's not doing well. I need something better to edit on. Once I get that, I'm going to start making more videos. But I do want to do one about the holiday toy drive that I went to, because I met a lot of great guys there, and I'll get into that. But here's WWE came out a couple years ago and said, we're going to give you exactly what you want. Now, in 2 years, we got the following: Kofi Mania, the ascension of Becky Lynch, women main eventing WrestleMania for the first time ever, a long-term feud in Sasha versus Bayley that's almost been going on for close to 3 years at this point, even with Sasha taking her time off. Drew McIntyre is the WWE champion. Braun Strowman won the WWE championship. Bray Wyatt won the WWE championship. The Street Profits came out of NXT and have been made out to be a top-tier tag team. I know I'm missing a whole bunch of other things that they did. Oh, I'm sorry. How do I forget that? Roman Reigns turned heel. Seth Rollins turned heel. these are, and Harry, I know that the Becky thing came before that, but she didn't main event WrestleMania at that point, and she was in the middle of that, and that's something that fans were clamoring for that they got. What's up, Shap Shap? But that's 11 things right off the top of my head that WWE gave their hardcore fan base. They wanted to see it, they got it. And yet here we are. Yeah, there you go. Charlotte's hasn't been on TV basically since a little bit after WrestleMania. It's been a long gap. And that's it, AJ. It's hard to decide what the fans want. It's that giving fans what they want immediately makes them feel like, oh, I'm sorry. How about the fact of the Daniel Bryan heel run? How about AJ Styles holding the WWE Championship for a full over a calendar year? Shap Shap, so excited, and that trailer was sick. But that I almost named 15 things in 2 years. In 2 years, we got 15 things that wrestling fans wanted. We're dying for years. Have been asking for. We got it. And yet we're still complaining about it. And Hosey, that's a separate point. I get where you're saying, because a lot of people kept saying, well, Raw's a disaster. Raw's a disaster. Raw's a disaster. Raw sucks. Yes, I'm not disagreeing with you. The past couple of weeks, Raw has not been good. There was a couple of weeks before that, though, where Raw was great. And then for most of the pandemic, Raw was borderline unwatchable to the point where if I wasn't doing this and doing shows with Dave, I might not have watched every week. But Raw not being good every week still doesn't have any bearing on the fact that we still got those 20 things that we asked for. Yes, we want consistency, but consistency is hard. You try writing 52 weeks of television every year. It's difficult. And that's 52 weeks of Raw and 52 weeks of SmackDown and 52 weeks of NXT. That is 3 major shows on major networks that WWE has to write. It's going to be very hard for them to write compelling TV shows every week. But if you're getting what you want at the end of the pay-per-views, isn't that what you want? You're getting the outcome that you want. They've given you what you've asked for. They're trying their best to make it weekly the best show they can make it. But in the meantime, they're still giving you what you've asked for. Oh, I'm sorry. How about Bray and Alexa Bliss? Another great pairing that everybody, was like, we want a Sister Abigail character. And we finally got it. And we got it in Lexi. And she's killing it. And AJ, I get that. I feel like if you're a tough guy, that's the only thing you are. You're a tough guy, like Timothy Thatcher. He's a tough guy. That's it. Like if you're a tough guy, that's it. You can't have any other personality. You just have to be tough. And I don't like that. But I get it. A lot of it has to do with character. I think I like the fact that they gave Drew the kilt and the sword. It adds character. Yeah, and Kaido, Hosey, I agree, man. Alexa's killing it. And yeah, Andy Ruiz, you're right. The Attitude Era wasn't always consistent. For every, Stone Cold, pouring cement into Vince McMahon's, limo that we got, we also got, Terry Runnels and, Jacqueline spiking, Meat's drink with a friggin', what's it called? Harry, I get you, but spiking his drink with dick pills, and he has to wrestle with with a hard on. That was the Attitude Era too. We had some really good things, and we also had some really bad ones too. Viagra, that's the word I was looking for, Harry. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word Viagra there for a second. But yeah, that was the Attitude Era. The finish to that match was Big Boss Man hit Meat in the penis with his nightstick. That was the finish of that match. That was the Attitude Era. For as many great things as we got, there were things that we didn't like. Here's what wrestling fans now don't do. Wrestling fans immediately rattle off the first 5 things about the show that they didn't like. Retribution sucks. Oh, I can't stand what they're doing with with the New Day and the Hurt Business. It's old already. This sucked, that sucked, and I didn't like this. Instead of sitting there and going, damn, how cool is what they did with, what they're doing with, Matt Riddle, giving him a huge personality and making him, a bankable character, giving him backstage vignettes, bringing back backstage vignettes with Matt Riddle. I think that's great. Look how well they're doing with The Fiend and Randy Orton. That whole story's great. I love the competitive rivalry story with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. I love the way, I love the, how AJ Styles is now just hiding behind this bodyguard. He's finally got a heater, and he's doing, and he's doing it, so well. There are good things about Raw, but wrestling fans accentuate the negatives and hide the positives when it should be the other way. And they do it just to, brag about how the other show that they're a fan of is better. But I don't care who's better. I don't care whose ratings are higher. We're wrestling fans. We should want success for the wrestling industry. We shouldn't want a whole bunch of people crapping all over the product. Yes, critiquing the product is absolutely something that a fan should do. Hosey can tell you all the time. We talk about football all the time. He's a huge Eagles fan. I'm a Jets fan. We rip into our teams all the time. All the time. But we're being critical. It's not like we're sitting here and saying and look, we're not having good seasons. We're focusing a lot on the negative. And for the Jets, there aren't a positive. So yes, being critical is fine. But being negative is a completely different story. And Jose, look, the Keith Lee thing doesn't bother me because they're putting him down there to give him a main event push. They have him slotted to being in the main event of WrestleMania. It's not a demotion. It's not a demotion at all. He's still on the show. He's still heavily featured. It took 2 guys. He had a 20-minute, like a 15-minute match with 2 men and held his own the entire time, and both of them had to lay on top of him to pin him. They're building Keith Lee to be a monster. They just don't have the exact spot that they need for him right now. As a matter of fact, I think Keith Lee is lost because I think that the plans were that Keith was going to feud with Braun, and Braun's out. So now they had to rewrite what they're doing with Keith Lee and put him in different situations. And Harry, you're right. Unless it's hardcore AEW fans talking about how great their show is, predominantly wrestling fans focus on the negative. And we as in the wrestling fandom should be better than that and start doing that. I hate how toxic the Star Wars fandom became, especially when the new movies were released. It made me sign out of every single. I'm not even a fan of almost any Star Wars page except for the actual legit, studio produced Star Wars pages. And Jose, AEW is pretty great. There are a lot of things. There are a lot of things I don't like about it, but there are a lot of things I do like about it. It is pretty great. But so is SmackDown. I think SmackDown's great. I think Roman Reigns is killing it. And, everybody talks about they're not making new stars. Jey Uso is becoming a star in his own right. Drew McIntyre is to a point, a quote unquote new star. Almost, and I hate the narrative of, oh, here we go. Here comes another main roster call up. Now we're going to get to bury this guy. Except for the fact that if you look at the WWE champions right now, everybody outside of Bobby Lashley and Kofi Kingston had spent a considerable amount of time in NXT. And Kofi Kingston was a huge part of Deep South NFCW. Jay Marshall, I agree. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to say, hey, we're going to give you a monster push. Go work on a bunch of things. I'm okay with that. That's fine. I don't think it was a punishment or a demotion. He's not off of Raw. They didn't put him back down to NXT. Harry, what about R-Truth? I like R-Truth. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. The 24/7 champion. You're right. Okay, fine. R-Truth is the only other one. I believe that I believe that when that somebody else I think Tozawa had the 24/7 title when I made that analogy a couple weeks ago. But for the most part, almost every champion has come from NXT. WrestleMania, this past WrestleMania, had an NXT wrestler in every single match except for the Boneyard match. How are we going to sit here and say that they're burying NXT talent? There's going to be more. Look, here's the thing, and I'll use myself as an example on the latter terms of this to make it seem like, to show that, like it's not as big of a deal. Oh, Edge versus Orton. Absolutely. Edge's return in general is another huge thing that happened that, fans were clamoring for, that we got, that everybody's, seemingly forgot because he got hurt again. Yeah, Shap, I agree. The announcements were great. Everybody seemed to be really happy about that. And then, of course, they're going to go back to being negative. And yes, R-Truth was amazing in TNA. R-Truth was also great in WWE during his heel run. I like R-Truth. But here's a good example. There's going to be more successes. There's going to be more failures than there are successes. As of right now, I am doing this show with you guys on YouTube, and I have 10 of you guys watching right now, and that's amazing. When Dave will go live on YouTube, he has a much bigger audience, and he'll get triple or quadruple. There was about 40-something people in the last live stream at one point when I looked down that me and Dave were doing. If you want to talk about things in terms of absolutes and you want to just talk about success, Harry, congratulations on that. But if you want to talk about just in terms of successes and failures, if you can sit there and talk about Dave and Dave's YouTube channel is a glaring success. Mine is a failure. Is this great? Is what we're doing right now great? Would I trade this for anything else in the world? No. I love doing this, and I love you guys, and I love having you guys here. But I have 100 subscribers, a little over 100 subscribers. Dave has tens of thousands. In essence, I saw that, and I'm glad that Dave started tasking some of the other guys as being mods. But in essence, my channel, if you want to look at this subjectively, is a failure. But what one person's failure is could be another person's success. Because I know that if I trained to be a professional wrestler, people could look at me and say, Albert had a horrible career. But my goal in my life is to have one legitimate wrestling match. That's all I want. I want to have one wrestling match. I want to get in the ring. I want to have a full-blown entrance. I want to get into the ring. I want to have a decent match. I want to feel it. I want the fans to be in it. I want it to be, entertaining. And that's it. If I do that one thing one time in my entire life, my wrestling career in my mind is a success. But to everybody else, they'd be like, well, that guy failed. He had one match and quit. Never had another one again. Our successes and failures are determined a lot by personal, by personal, goals and stuff like that. Hosey, first of all, thank you for stopping in. I do appreciate when you do. Second of all, yeah, I have a feeling I'm gonna have a heart attack getting on the top rope for a first time. But my thing is this, we can judge, if we judge the NXT call-ups specifically on numbers and numbers of guys that are either no longer with WWE or were not pushed, given a significant, amount of TV time and roster time on the main roster. Yes, by sheer number, they may outweigh the positives. But when you look at the last, if you look at, lately, just our past few WWE champions, world champions, Roman Reigns, NXT product. Drew McIntyre, NXT product. Bray Wyatt, NXT. Yes, I know he wasn't featured on NXT, but he was trained in the PC, and he was, in Adam Rose's, little entourage. So technically, counted if it goes. NXT product. Yes, there's Goldberg. Yes, there was the, Randy Orton. Yes, Kofi Kingston. Ron Hawthorne, what's up, man? There were Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles. Yes, there were guys that weren't NXT products, but a lot of them were. Now let's look at the Intercontinental Championship. Guys who have won it in the past 2 years. Sami Zayn. NXT product. Shinsuke Nakamura. US and Intercontinental Championship. NXT product. Tag titles. Cesaro was the foundation and a cornerstone of NXT for a very long time. Nakamura. Xavier and Big E were both two members of the New Day. Products of the NXT. The Street Profits, NXT. The Viking Raiders, NXT. We're talking about most of the guys who've been featured in prominent roles were all former NXT. EJK, what's up, man? They're all former NXT guys. Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, the major people who are being featured on WWE television are former NXT guys. So the narrative of here comes another NXT guy to the main roster just to be buried is stupid. It's absolutely stupid because most of the guys who are being featured in prominent roles are former NXT guys. Not everyone's going to be a major star. Not everyone's even going to be a mid-card star. And there are guys that deserve it, that are great, that deserved a shot in WWE on the main roster that were treated badly. And I'm not saying that guys like Eric Young and EC3, who, had backgrounds in, other companies before WWE, they weren't completely, buried on the main roster, because they were. Yes, some guys were. Entirety of the Four Horsewomen. Yep. And Paige before she got injured. Yep. Absolutely. And Bianca and Asuka and Alexa. Thank you, Shap Shap. And Nia. I know people don't like her, but still, Nia, was there too. Shayna Baszler. Io Shirai. I'm sorry, not Io Shirai. She's on my mind now because she's the champion. But Kairi Sane. These were all former women's or women's tag team champions. The Iconics. All former NXT. Nikki Cross. These are all former NXT wrestlers. So the narrative that NXT wrestlers come up into the main roster and get buried are okay in some respects. But it's not all. And for the most part, WWE's done a good job with a lot of NXT call-ups. Just the same as for the past 2 years, WWE gave us 20 things that diehard wrestling fans were dying for. Oh, The Undertaker's retirement, too, by the way, is something a lot of wrestling fans said they wanted to see, and now he retired. These are things that WWE in the past 2 years did. All of the, for the most part, almost everything that wrestling fans wanted, and yet we're still saying that it's an epic fail. We as wrestling fans are way too hard on the product. At the end of the day, we should be watching the show and talking about, wow, Ron, I actually didn't realize that. That's insane. Yeah, I feel like the only person who wasn't no, actually I take that back. Natty was in NXT. So was Tamina, And Andy Ruiz, yes. Eric Young, and look, Jose, you're right. For the most part, anybody who came from TNA, look, we can just look at Braden Walker as being the template of that. AJ Styles broke out of that, but AJ Styles is going to break out of that no matter what, because he's excellent. And, a guy like Magnus, WWE didn't even want to hire, which doesn't make sense to me either. But whatever. But yeah, no, Eric Young had a place. They shouldn't have broken up Sanity. Sanity could have been Retribution right now. For all you know what I mean? And they could have gotten a bigger push. Now Killian Dane is, Killian Dane went back down. Alexander Wolf went back down. Eric Young is gone. Nikki Cross is, still on the main roster. What was it? Sawyer Fulton was the original guy. He's in Impact now. For the most part, yes, there have been groups or acts, the Vaudevillains, that Enzo and Cass, Another example of American Alpha, for a little bit of a point, you can even say. These are people who didn't get the right push on the main roster. But how many professional wrestlers have there been, and how many of those, out of all those, name me the percentage of people who have won world heavyweight championships, or even titles in general? I guarantee you that the number is a lot smaller than you think. Major titles. There's a finite amount of positions to put people in the wrestling industry. That's it. And Andy Ruiz, yeah, they did, but they really didn't do well on the main roster. Harry, I'm very glad that you got your own Nikki Bella trivia on Dave's show. And Shap, yeah, for a lot of people do say that. I get it. A lot of people don't like Nia. I understand. Shap, Simon Gotch is in MLW. He's in Contra, if I'm not mistaken, in MLW. But look, that's the thing. Like, these things happen. Not everybody's going to be a rousing success. And think about the paces some of these guys are on. And we blame WWE for things, but Enzo and Cass sealed their own fates. Enzo, didn't disclose, he had an impending investigation against him. Big Cass, was, wasn't making good decisions backstage. These aren't things that that you can blame WWE for. Some guys, just happen to not work out. And some guys, it absolutely is on WWE. They could have booked them better, and they chose not to. And yes, it is, Andy. And a lot of people get one shot. Here you go. Here's your opportunity. Take it or leave it. If you can do it, great. If you can't, that's it. You might be gone by the end of next year. And that there are a lot of times where guys get called up that WWE really doesn't have a very set plan for. Or there are guys that WWE calls up and have a plan for, and then plans change. I don't think they just, they decided to say, Vince is just sitting there and going, let's see that NXT roster, Triple H. All right, here we go. I'm going to call up these following people. Apollo Crews. That sounds good. No Way Jose. That doesn't even sound like a wrestler. I want to see who he is. Keith Lee. That's a very basic name. Let's see what that guy's about. That's not the way he's doing it. There's a strategy behind it. And sometimes you get called up. Something, you have something, big happens, and then somebody gets hurt or plans change. And now all of a sudden they don't have anything for you. I know, AJ. I know. And I like No Way Jose as a wrestler. I thought he was talented. I just didn't think the gimmick was ever going to get over. And it didn't. It is what it is, though, Not everybody is going to be, a main guy. Years ago, when you were a mid-card guy, your push was spending, 65, that's a way higher number. 35 minutes in a Royal Rumble. That was your push. All right. We got Sparkplug Bob Holly here. We have nothing to do with this guy. Let's put him in a Royal Rumble for a half hour. That was your major push at points. The industry in general has changed. Just wrestling in general has changed. And for the most part, fans have changed. Because we're sitting here and we're watching the WWE and we're critiquing every little thing that goes on about it. Nice. And Jay, yeah, I like Adam Cruz as Adam Rose as Leo Kruger. Yes, absolutely. Harry Flynn, I refuse to say his name as a kid. I just call him a kid. Because that's every time I read it as, and a kid won this. I was like, all right, this guy needs a better name. Yeah, Harry, the snowstorm really backed up Amazon. I have a whole bunch of presents that are coming in that I'm hoping that I'm getting before Christmas now, because if not, people are going might have a little bit of a lean Christmas. But it is what it is. But look, at the end of the day, it's like I said, certain things aren't mutually exclusive. And there is no mutual exclusivity between WWE giving wrestling fans what they've wanted for the past 2 years and WWE having having Monday Night Raw being the best show ever. Those are not mutually exclusive. You can get what you want on a bad show. How many times have we seen horrible, horrible, horrible shows and we'll be like, well, at least that main event saved it. It happens all the time. But nowadays, everybody just wants to talk about all the horribleness and not the main event that saved it. Oh, Ron Hawthorne, you're 100% right. And look, most of the negativity that comes out of things, in my opinion, are these rumors from these dirt sheets. And in my opinion, I think the dirt sheets are absolutely the catalyst for wrestling fans for being so negative. Look at what, look, guys, if you haven't seen it, go on Dave's channel, look up the video he did about journalism and wrestling. He hits every single note better than I could ever want to in my entire life. But I have no problem burying Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer. I have zero issue with it. And I know Dave wanted to be diplomatic and not bury anybody. But when you predominantly report negative things about WWE and positive things about AEW, it shows you have an agenda. When you can sit there and say, well, I can stomach the Dark Order, turning into a comedy act on, in AEW, but it's absolutely abhorrent the way that they're booking, Retribution right now. They're both booked bad. Call a spade a spade. Dark Order should have never... Look, they're going to be successful as a comedy act. They probably are. Look, I met John Silver and I met Alex Reynolds. John Silver in real life is as short as you think he would be on TV, but he's like as wide as a freaking refrigerator. His arms were his biceps was the size of my freaking head. He's ridiculous. But and Andy Ruiz, that's the thing. They're not mistaking it. They're reporting it as fact. That's the difference. They're reporting it as fact. They're not saying, they're saying a reliable source told me that Mabel is going to be the third man in the NWO. And these are things that Dave Meltzer has passed off as facts because he heard them from somebody else. That's it. That's not reporting. That's a rumor. And you can report it as such and say, hey, this is what I heard. Just how biased they are. Keep it real. Both shows have issues, but sometimes they're blind to the other companies. So, and I agree. And I agree. And that's the reason why I know it gets me to come off that I attack AEW a lot more than I attack WWE. You guys see it all the time. On every one of Dave's streams, we sit here, we watch Monday Night Raw. On this TV I'm looking at right now, I watch Monday Night Raw almost every Monday sitting here with you guys. And there are multiple times where they'll do something and I'll go, oof, that wasn't good. Or, that's not booked well. Or, oh, man, that was a bad segment. I'm not a WWE fanboy. As a matter of fact, on Twitter today, I got called a WWE an alternate word for penis sucker because I brought up the same facts to everybody else, about this whole thing. This is where this video really came from, why I'm covering this. Because, I laid out 20 things that WWE did positive for wrestling fans in 2 years. And he's like, if you think that this is good stuff, then you're a WWE. Yeah, he went. That's where he went. And I called him a toxic asshole because that's what he is. But that's what wrestling fans are. If they don't agree with your opinion, you're a WWE apologist. Meanwhile, I wrote an entire write-up about WWE the other night, and the only person that wanted to comment on it only wanted to talk about AEW. I don't give a shit about AEW if I'm talking about how well WWE is doing or how bad WWE is doing. AEW has zero bearing on that. I'm not talking about AEW. And Shap, I agree. I don't want to be really hard on AEW. I like AEW a lot, but it's very hard to be, it's very hard to be critical of AEW without AEW loyalists jumping down your throat, just the same as it's hard to be positive about WWE without WWE haters jumping down your throat. Hey, wrestling fans pretty much suck, except me. Haha, you wrestling. EJK, look, that's actually, and I know you're joking, but that's absolutely 100% the way wrestling fans are. Harry Flynn, I have a lot of issues with that Pac figure. I don't like the face. The face with the hair on the face is better, but it's still not good. And Pac is ripped, and that body does not show that. He doesn't look like he's ripped at all. It looks like he doesn't have abs or anything at all. There's a lot wrong with it. The Riho smiling face one looks nothing like her. The Chase looks way better. The Young Bucks, the faces on the Bucks don't even look that good. Nick Jackson looks like the Joker. Not a great field for head scans, which is crazy to me because I thought Series 2 was like the best series in wrestling figure history. There really wasn't any misses. I know a lot of people were talking about Dustin being a little bit too tall. Outside of that, I think they killed it with Series 2. Face scans, body-wise, everything. I think they were great. But that's my 2 cents. Look, it's not like I said, these things are not mutually exclusive. The WWE could have given you 20 things you wanted and still not put on, a show that's up to your standards. They can do both. But it's ludicrous for people to sit back and say, Ron Hawthorne, I agree. The fan base is the worst. But it's ludicrous to sit back here and say WWE didn't do anything that the fans wanted over the past 2 years. It's kind of ridiculous, a bit of a ridiculous statement. But keep in mind who's calling you a bad wrestler, because you're literally being told this by some fans who just started watching wrestling. Andy Ruiz, look, I agree too. And I know that that's a lot of it, but it is what it is, At the end of the day, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I want to see everybody succeed. I like that Kenny Omega is going to wrestle on AEW pay-per-view, or their equivalent. I'm sorry, not AEW, Impact, an Impact pay-per-view. I like that. I think there should be more of that. Yes, Ron. Yes, absolutely. He really did make a fool out of himself. AEW beat Raw in the demo, but they still didn't win. I don't give a shit about the demo. The demo was a made-up thing by Chris Jericho because AEW lost the ratings 1 week. And it's not made up. It is real, but it means nothing to wrestling fans. I hope one day Dan Meltzer and Brian Alvarez at one point come across something that I've done, and they go in on me and rate me -5 stars. I hope that they rip me apart. That's actually my dream. Exactly, Andy Ruiz. I want the wrestling industry to be successful. I want Impact to be successful. I want MLW to be successful. I want Ring of Honor to come back and have a resurgence. I want WWE, AEW, New Japan, AAA, and every other Catalyst Wrestling and any other promotion you can name. I want them all to be the very best that they can be. I want them all to be successful. I want them to make all the money. That's what I want as a wrestling fan. I wish nothing bad on any wrestling promotion ever. And that's the way that we should be as wrestling fans. VSK, who is, if you don't know who VSK is, check him out. He's supremely talented. I retweeted something he said today, and he actually liked it, which I thought was super cool because he's a super cool guy. He said, "I'm very happy for all the success that all of my friends are having in the wrestling business on Wednesday nights." And I retweeted it, and I said, this is the way we should be as wrestling fans, that we should be happy for the successful nature of the wrestling industry and how well some of these wrestlers are doing, not being such toxic, negative morons. That's all I ask out of wrestling fans. Don't be a shithead. That's it. It's not hard. All right, so I'm at the tail end of this here. I was going to roll an hour. If you missed it earlier, I know only a couple people heard this story. I got woken up at 5 a.m. for the face of my non-working air conditioner blew off my house because of how horrific the wind and snow was over here in Staten Island. And I didn't get back to sleep, so I'm exhausted. I probably have bags under my eyes that people can go full on Costco grocery shopping in and fill them. But I want to talk really quick about the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast Holiday Toy Drive. Last Thursday, a week. Wow, I can't believe it's been a week ago already. I finished work and I took a drive down to Long Island, and not the roof off my house, just the face of my air conditioner off of my air conditioner, and knocked down some of my figures. AJ, it knocked down some of my figures, and I'm still offended by this. A brand new Kofi Kingston with pancakes and the SmackDown Tag Team title I found at the bottom of my stairs. My brand new Randy Orton in his hoodie. And old Baron Corbin, which, whatever, but it is what it is. And a couple others, but, I was very upset. Anyway, so I went down to the toy drive, and I donated 12 toys. This was about the kids more than it was me, so I didn't bring anything for anybody to sign, but, I also wasn't going to pass up the opportunity to meet two guys who, two guys that have made my wrestling fandom stronger over the past couple of years when I don't think wrestling has done it, and two guys that got me into being as hardcore of a wrestling fan as I've been, and that is obviously Matt Cardona and Brian Myers, and Tommy Dreamer and Taz. So I just want to run you guys through my experience. I got there. I waited online for almost 2 hours in the blistering cold. It was cold out, and all I had was a hoodie on, and that was not cool. I was very cold. Ran into a bunch of really nice major marks. Had a lot of good conversations on the line, but we were pretty cold. Andy Ruiz, I agree. That should be that is something that Dave should do a little bit more often. But anyway, so I got there. I donated 12 wrestling figures. 13 wrestling figures total. 12 or 13. I can't remember what it was. And the if you donated 10 or more, you got the print, which 2 seconds. Now, the print gave you access to get a signature from every single person who was actually in the toy drive. So as you can see, I met Matt Cardona, Hornswoggle, Smart Mark Sterling, Brian Myers, Tommy Dreamer, Taz, The Dark Order, and MJF. For me, that was enough. I don't, I didn't want to go in there and bring 50 things to sign. This was about the kids, and the donations, were close to the triple digits. How can I avoid being an absolute jerk-faced McGee if I know everything about wrestling? Never wrestled, never went to a live event, never participated in the business. So, EJK, that's every wrestling fan. That's what everybody. That's the way everybody thinks, that they know more. I tweeted out, and I'm telling you again, at KYD Justice. Follow me because my tweets have been on fire, and I need more interactions, people. But I tweeted, "What is this guy doing on TV? He has no talent," says some fat guy who's probably never gotten off his couch in the past 5 years while watching professional wrestling, professional sports, or MMA, probably, because that's the way wrestling fans are. Jay Marshall, dude, it was super cool. So you walked in. And watch, if you go on the Major Wrestling Figure podcast YouTube channel, you can see me for 2 seconds. I am the second to last person on the line when the guy runs out and says, "This is Mark's camera." You can see me standing there on my phone in my hoodie for about a good 2 seconds. But yeah, so I got out there. I waited in the cold. I finally got up there. They had a bunch of, if you're a fan of the podcast, they had a bunch of the major, podcast guys, watching the door and stuff like that. I went in. The first people I met was the Dark Order. If you go to my Twitter, actually, if you, it's probably on my Instagram and on my Twitter and on my Facebook. Just find me. You can see the pictures on there. I'm gonna probably do a video at one point and intersplice the pictures in with the video. Just to show you guys, but I took pictures with everybody. There's a certain, I'll get there. There's a story with that, but you walked in, and the Dark Order was the first table. Alex Reynolds, super nice, super cool dude. John Silver was one of the most personable people I met, and I don't. He had the being the elite title on the entire night, which I thought was cool. And they were super cool. You took the picture, and I joined the Dark Order. It was a cool experience to meet those guys. Definitely recommend if they ever do signings or anything like that. They're both absolutely some of the most personable, cool guys you'll ever meet. So go out of your way to do so. And then next was the Major Pod guys. So it's at one table, Brian Myers, Matt Cardona, the former Swoggle, whatever you want to call him, and Smart Mark Sterling. So earlier, I had posted in the Major Wrestling Figure podcast Facebook group, because I'm a Patreon member, that I couldn't decide. All of my Major Wrestling Figure podcast merchandise are tank tops. So I have individual Matt and Brian shirts, but I was like, how do I wear a Brian shirt and not wear a Matt shirt? How do I wear a Matt shirt and not wear a Brian shirt? So I went with the next best thing, and I wore my Smart Mark Sterling shirt. So I came up to Mark, and I started talking to everybody about that. I told that exact story. And Matt's phone decided at that moment to not work. So if you watch the video, there's a part where they have the guy who was in front of me, this guy who I met there. His name is Bill Heisen. Great guy. Shout out to Bill. We took pictures for each other. Yeah. To a point, I get what you, Andy, and you, Kaido, are saying. Silver could definitely be a solo act. So I decided that they show an image of a guy who brings a Hornswoggle pin, and he's like, "Oh, this is the 1 of 10 Hornswoggle pin." The next thing they cut to is like another guy who walks in. He's like, "Whoa, how high is that hair?" If you watch the vlog, you'll see it. I'm in between those two guys. So Matt Cardona's phone decided not to record when I told the whole story about me, wearing the Smart Mark shirt. And he was like, that would have been perfect for the vlog, but it didn't work. But they were super cool, super nice, busting each other's balls. Super cool with me. I got to BS with them for a couple minutes. They were great. Something I'll never forget. I do want to go to a real deal one where I can, sit down with them, have a few drinks, hang out, because they do that after their shows, when social distancing and, the world is, better and stuff like that. And, they'll probably do more. So I'm hoping, to get the opportunity to just sit down there and just BS with them. But I had a good conversation with Smart Mark. Mark has very much become my favorite indie wrestler, just because of the podcast, but because of the person he is. And I've had so many positive interactions with him over the past 2 years because of the podcast, that it was coolest to me that I actually got to stand in between Mark and Matt to take the picture. And yes, Turmoil is great, Harry. He lit a man on fire. How is that not a great thing? So then after that, which is probably going to be the highlight of all this, I met MJF. MJF was wearing a full blue suit with menorahs and dreidels and Hanukkah lights on it. And I got up there and I handed him my print, which he was obligated to sign. If you had the print. If you wanted MJF to take a picture or sign anything, you had to pay him. He was charging everybody $20 per picture and $20 per signed item. He did not care about Christmas. He didn't care it was the first night of Hanukkah. The man he lived the gimmick the entire night. There were 3 kids that were in front of me. I would say ranging in the ages of 8 to 12. They walked up to MJF and he was like, why are you looking at me? So one kid goes to answer. He goes, shut up. And he rips the picture out of his hand and he signs it. Then another kid started talking. He's like, why are you talking to me? I don't care about anything. And then the dad took a picture, then finally he's like, all right, what are we doing? Dad, you taking a damn picture with these kids? Let's go. And he takes a picture like this. He had the ring on, which was great. And he took the picture and he like a miserable bastard. And it was fantastic. So I get up there and I'm like, all right, Albert, what are we going to say? He's going to say something negative to you. That's cool. I'm okay with it. But I want a story out of this. And I don't want to just be like, hey, what's up, man? I want something. So I looked at that full-blown Hanukkah suit and I went, dude, that's the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen anybody wear. That's badass. He looks up at me, pauses, and then goes, no shit, fuckface, I'm wearing it. And I went, you're fucking fantastic. And he said, shut the fuck up and get out of my face. That was it. That was my experience with MJF, and it was glorious. He didn't give a shit about anybody. He didn't care. He charged anybody. He didn't care if you were a kid. He didn't care about anything. He charged everyone. He was a dick to everybody. It was great. And then I got to have two of the most sentimental things in the history of professional wrestling that I've ever had. I don't know if I've told you guys this. As a wrestling fan, I'm not a meet and greet guy. I know a lot of people, there might be a lot of people in here that are. I know that there are a lot of people that are meet and greet people. They love to go and meet, the wrestlers, and, they'll pay exuberant prices to meet them, to have a face-to-face. And that's great. That's really cool. But for me, I'm only going to go out and meet people who truthfully and honestly really matter to me in my wrestling fandom. So besides Matt and Brian and Mark, who I've, wanted to meet because of the podcast, Tommy Dreamer and Taz were there. And I said to myself, I may never get a chance to tell two guys who have actually meant so much to me and my wrestling fandom the impact that they've had on just my life as, a wrestling fan. The only other real deal meet and greet I went to was Bret Hart, and Bret Hart is, as you guys know, top 3, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I do want to meet Jericho. And outside of that, I really, there aren't many people that are really on my quote unquote list to meet. That being said, I am a huge fan of the original ECW. I'm a huge fan. Rob Van Dam's another guy on my list that I want to meet. And Shane Douglas are probably the other two that I really do. And Francine too, but Francine was like my first crush. So that's probably why. Or like, maybe not my first, but one of my biggest ones in wrestling ever. So I got up to Taz and I said, hey, what's up, brother? How are you? I said, listen, this is one of the coolest experiences for me. I used to wake up at 2 a.m. and sneak out into my living room because I didn't have cable and watch hardcore TV. And, I just want to thank you for all the great memories that you gave me, for everything that you've done for the business. You're one of my favorites of all time. And you're one of the main reasons why I came here tonight. He could not have been a nicer human being. He was like, brother, thank you so much for that. We appreciate hearing that. That's so great. He's like, I see you have the print. So we started talking about how, I donated, he's like, how many toys did you bring? I said, I donated 12 toys. I said, they have, they have thousands here. And, they filled up the ring with the toys. And if you watch the vlog, it's crazy how many toys are in the ring. And he's like, this has been for such a good cause. He's like, is the line almost done out there? I was like, I was at one point second to last on the line. And then it got to be, once I got to almost the door, it was almost as long as it was before. I said, but I was standing there for almost 2 hours. And he was like, you stood out online in that cold for 2 hours. It's like, I did. I said, it's for the kids, and I wanted to meet you guys, for me personally, that's, my big takeaway from this is that I got to donate and, $100. I spent over $100 in toys to donate because it's a good cause. And I didn't have a lot of Christmas presents to buy this year. So why not spend it on the kids who really need it? And I was like, my other big thing is I was like, I get to meet two of my childhood heroes. And he was like, thank you so much. Thank you for donating. Thank you for coming out. It's super cool to have you here. Thank you for braving the cold. It's fans like you that we really appreciate. Taz could not have been a cooler human being. I know a lot of people say he's a miserable guy in real life, but I mean, I'm to a point where I kind of, I don't know if you can really see, but I kind of have goosebumps just talking about it because of how nice he was to me. Um, and then I met Tommy Dreamer right after that, and I told him, the same story about waking up and the whole hardcore TV thing. And he was like, "Oh, so you were one of the cool kids?" I said, "Well, if cool kids counts as being a wrestling fan in high school," I was like, "I don't know how cool I was." He goes, "You were cool for a wrestling fan." I was like, "All right, cool, I'll take that." So, Tommy was great. I couldn't have had a better experience. My advice, if you guys aren't meet and greet people, or you are, these are, the guys that I met are the guys to go to meet. Every single one of them could not have been nicer. They took time out to talk to you, and they knew they didn't have a lot of time to do so, but they made everything personable and everything. And I couldn't have had a better experience. And that's something I wanted to share with you guys, because you guys are, I consider you guys my wrestling family. I don't have a lot of my friends in real life aren't wrestling fans. I have a couple, and that's it. So it's good to be able to tell these stories to people who I know truthfully and honestly appreciate them. So, yeah, the toy drive was great. They're going to do it again next year. It's going to be a real thing. So I would suggest that every single one of you guys, even if it's you go on Ringside, you can donate. You don't even have to do anything. You can go on Ringside, put in the address to their toy drive, and just donate. They finished taking last Thursday was their last night of taking any donations. But next year, if you guys are inclined, please, if you can, just donate a little bit, because there are a lot of kids, especially this year, a lot of kids aren't going to have a really good Christmas or holiday season. And I'm glad to know that I did a small part to make a couple of kids' Christmases a little bit better. Some kid's going to open up an AJ Styles, or I donated retros, elites. I donated a little bit of everything. I sprinkled in, a little bit of everything in those 12 figures, and I hope that one of those kids opens one of those presents up, and that makes their holiday. For me, that's what this is about. Meeting everybody else there was great. The experience that I had is something that I will never, I'll never forget. And it was just one of the better nights the best night of 2020 for me, hands down. There hasn't been a better night in 2020 that I've had, because we haven't been able to do anything than that. And it was great. It was such a good experience. Iron Monkey, what's up, man? Merry Christmas, dude. Andy, thank you. And look, I'm not saying it to have people tell me what I did was nice. It is what it is. I did it for the kids. Meeting these amazing individuals was a great bonus, but yeah, it's a great experience. So with that being said, I'm probably gonna get going. It's a little bit late. You guys, know that I didn't get any sleep last night, so that's kind of weighing on me now. So I'm probably gonna watch the whatever I didn't watch of this week's Raw, and fall asleep. Andy Ruiz, I will ask Dave. I believe, and Harry, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that the last live stream that we did, I suggested it and Dave shot it down. But I will try. I will try my best, Andy, to get to get you back on band. Harry, if you have the chance, if you can meet any of these guys, do it. They were all fantastic. Every single last one of them were fantastic. Even MJF telling me off. Damn, maybe I should get like a diffuser. The lighting is better, even just like me holding up this picture. Now the white balance doesn't do it. All right. Well, at least I know that maybe I can change my lighting and make it a little bit better in here. Andy, I will let Dave know. I will try my best. I can't promise you anything, but I will try my best. I'll probably be on this Monday if Dave is able to be on. So I will bring it up. Iron Monkey, yeah, look. I try to be as positive as I possibly can at all times. We all know about this. Harry, you have to figure out a way to go meet Nikki Bella. Like, you just got to do it. Actually, wait, hold on. Aren't you engaged to her? Didn't she have your child? confused here. Stories aren't matching up here, Harry. I keep hearing this, like this guy named Artem. I don't know who that is. Like I saw like the preview for the next Bellas thing, and they were talking about this guy Artem. I don't know who that guy is. The only person I know who's married and is having a baby with Nikki Bella is one Harry Flynn. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But guys, thank you for joining. 10 thumbs up. Like I can't thank you enough for how amazing you guys are. And I will make sure that this is not the last you see of me until the holidays. I want to try to make this a weekly thing. It's just with work and with a lot of other things, it's really killing me lately. So I'm really hoping that I can kind of catch up and be able to interact with you guys more because I love doing this. So just in case, and I don't think it's going to happen, but just in case, if I don't see you guys before Harry and Chap, thank you guys for clearing that for me. I appreciate that. But if I don't see you guys before, if there's anybody who in here who is Jewish, happy Hanukkah. I know we're in, that I think tonight's the last night, if I'm not mistaken. So happy Hanukkah. And for anybody here who celebrates it, Merry Christmas, and to whatever you celebrate, have a very happy holiday season. I love each and every one of you guys for being here, for supporting me, and thank you so much for everything. And I need a tagline at the end of these streams because usually it's just Dave knows, but I don't ever say that I know anything about wrestling. AJ Envoy, I will do my best. I will tell you guys this. Tonight was a surprise stream. I planned on going on earlier, but I actually wound up recording a podcast for my friend's podcast, the Silver Screen Action Figure Podcast. If you look that up when it's out, it'll be on my socials. But pay attention if you guys are on any of my social media, Twitter and the Slam Sessions podcast network on Facebook. Tune into both of those. I will do my best to let you guys know when I'm going to live stream. And AJ, I will try my best to do a weekend one for you. So with that being said, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time.